because I didn't grow up ever thinking I would ever have anyone ever know who I was outside of like, and there he is, the Gary wins the businessman of the year in Springfield, New Jersey. Like I thought I'd be a businessman and like there'd be a gala and people like, oh, you're good. But like, I never thought any time before the age of 30 that the world would know who I was at scale. So to your point, there's that. On the flip side, no to people, yes to business. So I was very good at ringing doorbells and saying, do you want me to, shovel your driveway for $5? It just snowed 9 inches. I was very good at like business rolling up on people. I have a little bit of a weird nuance where my family like was taught to like stand on your own 2 feet, never complain, and kind of don't ask anybody for anything. So I actually, here's an interesting insight to me. I don't really raise capital. I actually envy, which I don't envy, but like I admire my friends who are able to raise capital. So I'm actually not great. I would never be the person that would pitch someone a business in the middle of the street. It would never happen. But I would sell something like because I believe in it, right? Like I knew that the people were ripping me off by paying me $5 to shovel snow for an hour. I just thought $5 was like $1 billion back then. And I was like, fuck it, let's go. So, there's a real mix of nuances there if you want to get into the insight, but I don't judge it in the negative if someone does it, back to your prior point. And to your prior point, unlike Victor, or Shaq, though Shaq loves to tell the story that he wasn't that great in high school, it at least crossed his mind that he might get good at basketball. You know what I mean? It was like, for these people, to your point, like if you were aspiring to be an athlete or an actor or a musician, it has crossed your mind multiple times in your youth that people are gonna think that you're gonna be famous. For me, that was never, I was gonna be a businessman, a good one, a big one. Maybe the Wall Street Journal would write about me, but that means like people I know would be like, cool, you did it, not like strangers know who you are. And so that's absolutely right. And by the way, I might be a last of Mohican. Let me throw something at you that I thought about literally yesterday in Cleveland. I'm like, wait a minute. The amount of people that are going to be able to be 30 years old before they even make any content on the internet, right? 35, be a grown ass man, 35, like at least emotionally, and like have responsibilities and children and a business, and then only be like, wait a minute, people are going to know who I am. I better be prepared to deal with that. Every 9-year-old on earth now, every 13-year-old on earth wants to be famous. They want to be a YouTuber. They want to be a podcaster. They want to be an influencer, a creator. It's almost like we won't have humans anymore that don't think that they're going to be, it's like even by default, even if you're like, I'll never want to be, that you might be, that you may post something one day and everyone will know what it is because it went viral. It's really a whole different world.
Is there a scenario where empathy is particularly difficult for you to practice what you preach?
When people come in with gobs of entitlement. If you ask me, where do you feel most challenged, Gary, to deploy empathy? No question, I'm so triggered by my upbringing to be anti-complaining to the extreme, too far. My family took it too far. But I'm giving you a vulnerable, honest answer. I am most challenged to deploy empathy when people roll in with obnoxious entitlement. Not micro entitlement, because I think anyone who lives in a first world country, in a big city is met with entitlement at scale right now. It's hard out here. There's a lot of entitlement, but gobs of entitlement, delusional entitlement is definitely when I bite my inner cheek. But honestly, back to like, I'm so proud of this. This is kudos to Tamara and Sasha Vaynerchuk. They did a really good job. I'm able to bite my inner cheek and go into deep compassion, sympathy, and empathy mode and go, well, they might have been brought up by parents that really spoiled them, or they might be overcorrecting for the things that they're upset with in society right now. And we're gonna fight the machine. Like I'm a very happy man because I'm very quick to not judge. I think judging people is a disaster. And I'm very quick to go into, and this is why I think I'm a good marketer and a good salesman. I'm gonna put my feet in their two shoes right this second. And how did I get to asking for some delusional ask? Oh, I know how. I grew up in an environment that didn't think that that was a bad thing.
I'm a creative at heart. When your name comes up in creative circles, I think one of the great curiosities is your relationship to creative. You know, do you enjoy the creative part of advertising? Are you looking at decks? Do you creative direct on occasion? How hands-on are you in the making of shit?
I have too much humility to get confused, which I think is a huge confusion in our industry, that my opinion is that important. Now, I do believe I have good subjective creative decisions. It's why I've been a fantastic investor. It's why I've been able to build brands. But I'm too scared to act as if I'm not playing baseball. I believe the best CCOs in our industry, if they are meant to go into the Hall of Fame, not the bullshit Hall of Fames that we've created in advertising that everybody gets into if they buy a table, but I mean, really, on merit, will go 3 out of 10 on their subjective opinion in a looking at decks and listening to pitches. I think most CCOs in our industry act like they're right 12 out of 10 times. This goes back to Shaq's superpower of humility. I think humility needs to be championed in this industry. So how I am obsessive, hands in the dirt with my team on the process to creativity. I'll give you for instance. I am championing from Rob Lanoy, our CCO down, that when a lead creative has to make a subjective call in a meeting for the pitch, for the idea, that we're at that moment, right? That you've been in many times, that they must announce, hey, 6 people I brought on the new business team. Hey, 4 teams that work on this account. It is now time for me to, unfortunately, to be in the unfortunate position to make a subjective call to allow us to move on. That is outer space different than what's happening all across creative agencies around the industry right now, where the person acts as if they're the only person that knows, they're the great Pumbaa, all these ideas, you're lucky, you know, and you know this. This is something I want. I think the industry is loaded with creative people, and I think the process of the industry has extracted happiness and creativity out of them. So, you know, for all the creatives, I've come to this industry to help you. I know a lot of people think I'm the bad guy. You're not about the work, Gary. I'm the most about the work. I'm not about the work being done the way that people are crying in bathrooms, feeling dejected, eating shit for 20 years until they can then be the person that does that and then treat everybody bad because they were. I'm not in that game. I'm not in that game, but I'm in the game of creativity. I think creative is the variable of literally is the variable of success. But on the media side, I'd like the creative to actually be seen. I do not believe most commercials are seen. I do not believe most banner ads are seen. I don't believe most social is seen. And on the creative side, I'd like us to have more humility that we are making the best guess that we can of the moment with our skills and experiences, but let's make all the people around us feel good about it, not douchey about it.
We want to believe we're the butterfly, but like, we may be the larva. The butterfly may look back at us and be like, man, that was so fucking cute. Like they had fire and a wheel and they thought they had it all.
No, not will they, like, or they may, like, it's 100,000%.
It's the law of the universe.
When people are like, phones and social media, I'm like, do you understand in 40 years, the iPhone and TikTok and Facebook are gonna be the mundane? Like, people thought they were flexing in the mid 90s with like a cellular phone that looked like a cup of coffee, and like a big antenna, no texting. Like, I mean, do you understand some of the things we accept today that would have been insane? Could you imagine 20 years ago telling parents, guess what? In 20 years, you're gonna want your 14-year-old daughter to go into a strange man's car to go to places because that's gonna be safer than them driving. The concept of Uber is insane 25 years ago. Do you know how many 13-year-olds take Ubers to the mall now in high net worth neighborhoods? And like, people would have like, I mean, it's insane. And that's just consumer behavior. Or 25 years ago, online dating was for like dudes that lived in the basement of their mom, and it was like the least cool thing. And that's social norms, not even technology. To your point with technology, like, oh man, I mean, 50 years from now, everything we're doing now is going to be laughed at as like amateur hour.
Yeah, I think there's a fate to it that, again, it's hardwired into most of us to be resistant to change, even as change is the law of the universe. And so, you know, it feels like we're like protecting our species, but again, like our species is in this state of constant evolution where exactly just the ways that we define a human, you know, you think about, like education, like education for us was the memorization of facts. What happens when every kid has all of the access in all the world at their fingertip? Then like, what is it even to be educating? It's like all of these things are, and I'm happy I live right now. I think maybe that's the takeaway of what I'm saying. I'm happy I get to be here in this moment.
Me too, because you don't get to make that decision because we're too small as an individual human. To me, I'm happy about everything.